If it comes to an issue of mom and dad are going to carpool the kid, which is a big problem in Oxnard right now, parents not paying attention and kids getting hurt, or the school district ponying up and having bus routes to pick them up.
Yeah.
I served on the Juan Soria School District after it was approved as a construction oversight. And the people on several of the people on the committee and the guys building the school were always saying, what in the hell is the school doing next door to the airport? I agree with Dr. Fusser. I don't think it's like playing on the freeway, but it's like, that's not the smartest thing going.
Yeah.
And if you look at our noise complaints, the other part is we've had the city do whatever they can to put houses near airports, and then we have noise complaints from people who live in those houses when they had to sign off, you're going to be in an airport. And specifically, on the Juan Soria School, there were mitigations for noise. And fortunately for the school district, one of the trustees is a teacher at the Rio School District, Dennis Leary.
Yeah.
And he went there when the thing was just opening up, and he was in the second floor, and it's like, what the hell, this is louder than hell. They had to go back with more soundproofing.
The dual pane windows.
That and the other, because it was like inside of a drum. It doesn't feel good to put a school. I don't gamble that much, I do, but rolling the dice on somebody else's kids.
I agree.
And the other side of it is, the city's gonna build a house, approve houses, people are gonna have kids, where the hell are they gonna go? I do agree with Supervisor Long. There will be some that maybe environmentalists wanna walk, but if it does come to that, the school district gets pressured by the parents, you get some buses.
And we'll get concerns from
The school district has got a ton of buses because they got all these high-capacity roads and areas, and so they went out and bought a bunch of buses.
I agree that public safety for our students is extremely important.
Extremely important, yeah. So we have 3 recommendations here. Any other concerns or input? And the recommendations are to receive the report, of course, on the school sites, number 1, the proposed school sites at the intersection of Doris and Patterson. And number 2 is to receive the report from LAFCO and Kai. Thank you for the 25 words or less.
You're welcome.
That's really important that we understand where we're coming from. And then, of course, and number 3, to approve and authorize the chairperson to send a letter to be prepared by the director of the airports to the city of Oxnard objecting the annexation of the school's property for the purpose of constructing 2 school sites at the intersection of Doris and Patterson Road. What's the pleasure of the board?
I move to approval, but I have one question. Can we request that that letter from 2002 be updated?
I don't see why not.
The Caltrans,
Caltrans, can we get?
We can look at that. I mean, we can definitely ask. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, without doubt.
And also, I see VCTC works with us pretty close on that too. Yeah. Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second for Mayor Flynn. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that's approved. And thank you for the presentation, Kai.
Thank you so
May I make a
much.
request? May I
Kai?
have a copy of the PowerPoint, please?
Yeah, it'll be on the airport website.
Okay, thank you.
Probably tomorrow. Thank you, Kai.
Thank you, Kai.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so item number 7 is director report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As part of my director's report tonight, I'd like to complete a request that I was asked of staff during the September authorities meeting, and that was for us to follow up to public comments received during the September 12th Camarillo and Oxnard Airport Authorities meeting. So I've got that prepared here and would like to include that in my director's report. If you would bear with me, it is a few comments that we received, so I'm touching on them as fast as I can here. Comment number 1. Excuse me, Mr. Mark Sullivan's reference to a previous records request pertaining to RKR, which is a private development that is planned currently for the Camarillo Airport, and whether there had been any negotiations with the Department of Airports to try and change the joint powers agreement at Camarillo Airport with respect to allowing hangars to base and operate aircraft in excess of 115,000 pounds. That's summarizing Mr. Sullivan's request. The response from the Department of Airports is we have not engaged in any conversations or negotiations with anyone. As I, your director, understand it, I've been here 6 months and I'm not aware of any. I also spoke with Jorge Rubio, our deputy director, who was also acting director for, I believe, the better part of a year or more. Right. He is not aware of any about modifying any negotiations or discussions about trying to modify the joint powers agreement with the city of Camarillo to do that. So we think that is a clear no. As far as the two of us as the current and past leader of the airport are aware for the last year and a half.
Okay. May I ask a question? Specifically, no negotiations or no negotiations on the weight that you were talking about?
Well, the question was, had the Department of Airports been engaged in any negotiations with RKR about changing or let's see, changing the joint powers agreement at Camarillo with respect to allowing hangars to base and operate aircraft in excess of 115,000 pounds. My understanding, there's been no negotiations with anybody about trying to change the JPA to allow our aircraft larger than 115,000 pounds.
Any? Go ahead.
No, that was all.
That's it?
Well, I mean, I've got more,
Go
but I
ahead.
didn't know if you had a question on that one or not.
Okay. No other questions on that? Okay.
Comment number 2, excuse me, I've got something in my throat. Comment number 2, Mr. Sullivan's inquiry regarding budget numbers related to the Northeast Hangar development. Mr. Sullivan's inquiry was to know whether or not the Department of Airports would be able to come up with the $54,200 that was included in the adopted fiscal year 2019-2020 budget if the Northeast Hangar development is not built in this fiscal year as previously planned. Our response is the Northeast Hangar development for Camarillo may still be completed in this fiscal year. However, it is most likely at this point that if the project is completed during the fiscal year, that due to the timing of the completion, the Department of Airports will not realize the $54,200 of generated revenue from those hangars as we had originally thought.
It's a different year.
In the fiscal year, correct. Yeah. However, the Department of Airports is tracking very strong in its budget through first quarter numbers, and assuming the $54,000 that was anticipated to be received in fiscal 19-20 does not materialize, we still predict a very positive net revenue after all operating expenses are that we have planned. We still expect to finish the year in a positive manner with the way we're tracking right now and the expectations we have for expenditures for this year.
Okay.
So the project is not being slowed down because of funding?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's other reasons why?
Exactly.
Thank you.
Expect the revenues.
Yeah. There's other reasons, definitely other reasons. Comment number 3, Mr. Sullivan's inquiry as to what impact the change orders from Toro, and let me just expand on that. Because we are an enterprise fund, we always very carefully plan any kind of project, particularly projects of magnitude, several years out to make sure that we maintain, one, the reserves that we like to maintain. Just so you know what that looks like, the airports always, or at least the last several years as I understand it, always tried to keep at least a 6-month reserve. I personally bumped that up to 9 months to a year, just because I've seen hard times before at airports, so I like a better reserve than maybe others. But at the same token, we always make sure that all of our operating expenses are going to be covered, all of our other expenses are covered before we even think about engaging in a project. So,
and Kip, I think even 9 months is good because most entities look minimum 3 months of reserves.
Yeah.
So 6 and even 9 months is excellent.
Right, and exactly, and if we needed the money, we've got it. But I mean, we maintain a very healthy reserve, and we do very systematic planning in advance because we are an enterprise fund, and that's the main thing I wanted to point out.
No general fund money.
Yeah, no general fund at all, so we have to make it work. Comment number 3, Mr. Sullivan's inquiry as to what impact the change orders from Toro may have on the Department of Airport budget. Again, I think it's referencing your question, Supervisor Long. He stated concern, speaking particularly for his client, Airport Properties, APL, and that if there is a deficit in the budget as a result of the Northeast Hangar development, that the financial burden might be shifted to other tenants. And as noted above, any setbacks of planned revenues previously anticipated for the fiscal year 1920 DOA budget will be offset by an overall positive net revenues that are expected during this fiscal year.
No subsidies.
No subsidies, that's correct. And those were the comments that we had that we provided.
Any questions of Kip?
And I've still got a director's report.
Oh, you still?
That was just the
I'm sorry.
Just the response that we had.
Okay, I'm
for
sorry.
the
Go ahead and
comments that
continue.
we had. But I can.
You have
I'd
a
like
question?
to make a comment on that. That's the first time that I've heard a director make those kinds of comments at a thing. I don't know how the rest of you feel, but
That's great. No.
I like that.
Yeah.
And I like your conservative approach going from 6 to 9. I like
That's
that
right.
too. Having
Yeah.
from a city that had issues, I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
So continue.
I was running an airport during the last recession, so
You did.
it always pays to be ready. Just a quick director's report. I try to give you one each month that we're here. Unfortunately, we have another series of accidents and incidents to report. One perished in an aircraft accident near Camarillo on 10/8. Several of you may know the individual. He had his aircraft based at Camarillo. It's in the paper about what his name was, Mr. John Lewis. Another aircraft incident at Oxnard on 9/25. There was no injuries. Another aircraft incident at Oxnard on 9/29. No injuries. A blown tire. Another aircraft incident at Oxnard on 9/23. No injuries. Another blown tire. Just in the time I've been here a little over 6 months now, we've had at least 6 aircraft accidents or injuries, 2 with fatalities. That should be enough for anybody thinking about building schools and traffic pattern zones or keeping homeless in a shelter in a runway protection zone. It's just an unnecessary risk of life.
I'm going to Kip, and you and I spoke about that too, because I remember, and you probably, council members remember when that plane fell right there at the school barn on K Street.
Hit the backstop of the baseball.
And then over on Doris, another one clipped the fireplace right off of Doris and Ventura. The wing, if you remember that.
Ivanhoe.
And probably Walt and the Doc probably remember a lot more than, other incidences.
I remember every one of them.
Yeah.
I can only add this. My wife and I were looking for a home, and on the second day we were looking, we came upon the accident the day after, and everybody was standing there looking at the top of the house where an airplane had clipped it. And my wife said, "Not here."
Not this one. Smart move. Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Kip.
Oh, no worries. I'll try to be brief here. I know it's late. Just a couple of some other general updates. We did have another Hangar Association meeting, as we had mentioned that we would in the September meeting. Mm-hmm. We actually had it on September 26th. Another good meeting, I think another 3-hour meeting or more. 2-3-hour meeting, if I remember correctly. And following that, the Department of Airports, which has already been mentioned here tonight, sent a letter to the private hangar owners and tenants on October the 3rd, illustrating the Department of Airports what we think is our best foot forward, and hopefully for a good proposal for the existing hangar owners and tenants.
And we've been working on that for years.
Over 3 years, yeah, as I understand it. So we're excited to be moving forward in the next direction on that. Next steps, just so you know, for the Department of Airports will be we're working now on the draft lease templates. And I say templates because there's one proposal for existing hangars as highlighted in that October 3rd letter, and then there's going to be another template for new entrants coming in that don't exist on the airport today that will not have some of the same concessions that letter has.
Oh, I'm sorry, because I was going to ask you offline, but I don't want to, this probably is interesting because we heard the general comments. If someone does not want to go with if they are a hangar owner and they don't want to get involved in the long-term lease, can they maintain a month-to-month
No, the whole idea, or one of the main factors as to why this whole process began years ago was to get to a more common practice of lease oversight and management by the Department of Airports, and that is a term lease, and that's the preferred method of lease. Now, the month-to-month will exist for county-owned hangars, for tenants of county-owned hangars, because that format works for that.
And it'll make it hopefully more uniform for everybody.
Yeah, so
The new leases.
So one of the things that came out from the gentleman that talked today is it was not totally clear to me either. At the end of the 20 plus 5 option, with the option, what are the options?
Well, it's for clarity, it's 15 plus 5, so end of 20
Right now.
Okay.
is
So
the proposal.
Your proposal was 15 plus 5?
That's correct.
But
Still, it was not totally clear at the end of that 20-year period what the next.
But Bill, can I intervene here? I know you're giving us a report, but I don't want to get involved because it's not agendized right now, and that's coming up.
Got it.
So I'm sorry to interfere in this, but maybe you can talk on a one-to-one basis.
Sure.
And then,
Absolutely.
you know. Okay, Bill?
Fine.
Okay, thank you.
We'll get together. I'm happy to work with you. As far as project updates, I like to keep you informed on the highlights of the project updates we're working on. The Camarillo Northeast Hangar project, we're still working with the contractor to resolve unknown potential change orders. We had a meeting with the contractor actually yesterday on 10/9, and we're expected to meet with them again at the latter part of this month. The Oxnard runway project design scope is still being worked out with the FAA and the consultant for final design and what that design will look like. The Oxnard ALP Airport Layout Plan Update Project Draft was submitted since we last met to the FAA on 10/8, so just this week as well. The master and system plan that I've been mentioning since I've arrived, project, we're still working with FAA for potential partial funding from them, but we are now looking to probably trigger that effort by the first of the year. So you'll be seeing more on that as we continue towards the first of the year. Camarillo taxiway hotel grants have now been executed since we last met, and the contract has been awarded to Maxwell Asphalt. Anticipated notice to proceed by the end of this month. And both airports' hangar assessments, as mentioned last time we met, are being evaluated. That both airports' hangar assessments that the county owns are being assessed to determine structural integrity and maintenance for the next few years down the road. Just other items to note: anticipate adoption of the Camarillo Commission revised bylaws in November. I think they're real close on that. You folks have already adopted your revised bylaws. We're still working on the 139 inspection discrepancies that we received for the Oxnard Airport. Taxiway sign panels have been replaced, and we're working with FAA to try to get an extension while we go out to bid for the runway markings. Job offers are being made as we speak for the 4 open maintenance positions, so those 4 positions are closing up, and that's been a long process, and staff's done a really good job on that. I want to particularly thank Anna and Byron for the work they've put into that. And as far as personal things, I've been offered an opportunity to serve on the board for the Oxnard Chamber and Camarillo Chamber of Commerce, so I look forward to serving on
So both chambers?
Both chambers.
Oh, good. Good.
So, and that is the end of the director's report.
Thank you. Any questions, Bert?
I have a question. It's maybe a dumb question, but if I don't ask it, I'll lose one.
Absolutely.
A couple of airplanes had tires blown out.
Yes, sir.
Something on the runway?
No, it's nothing to do with the airport.
Yeah, to do with that. No other questions?
Yes.
So,
To his question on accidents that happen in the airport, do we track that in any way? I see on the monthly activity report, we talk about citations issued or cards
Noise.
issued, noise and that type of stuff. But do we ever do an incident thing just to kind of see where we are? If there's any common threads?
You can probably add
or is
that
it
too.
not needed?
We definitely keep good detailed reports of all the incidents. I don't know that we have I'm not aware of a mechanism that we're reporting it other through maybe the director's report that you're getting, but.
Well, isn't that mandated by the FAA anyway? Mandated by the FAA that you keep track of the?
Well, I mean, we keep track of them. We have good detailed written reports for each incident or accident that happens on either of our airports because we work then with the FAA and the NTSB
Right.
In their investigative process following the accidents or incidents. So we have an accountability of what our team does in association with that. As far as I think what you may be saying, do we put out a tracking sheet?
A report.
We don't do that. We can, I mean, but we don't.
To manufacturing places and so forth, and they say, so many days without injury. That's,
Oh,
that's where my mind was.
gotcha.
Unfortunately, we're not in
Trying to
control of
make
this.
sure we don't have accidents. No one wants them, that's all.
Yeah, it's good.
No, yeah.
You can ignore it, that's just where my brain went.
Well, that's a good point.
365 days where our pilots aren't injured.
Right, yeah, it'd be nice.
Any other questions, Kip? Bert?
Even hopefully the pilots aren't interested, but it's accidents in general, I think could be the issue that we're discussing tonight.
Sure.
Information, the rest of our council members in Oxnard would
We
be
could have
interested
it.
in that.
We can, you know,
Yeah, we can do anything,
I mean,
yeah.
Basically, hopefully some of them have read the newspaper stories about what's transpired. Some may not. But if we
up to
have
date.
A list of, say,
To
things
date.
that have happened. And the other thing is, when it was mentioned, the FFA or the federal agencies that look into this, the planes that there is not injuries, do they investigate those, or is it only if there's?
It's a good question. A lot of times they do, and sometimes they don't. They make those decisions. We have no bearing on that.
That's not part of our forte.
Yeah, but depending on the nature of the incident, the damage that might have been caused by the incident, the FAA and the NTSB make decisions based off their knowledge of those incidents as they happen. So there's no set formula for that.
And if there is an
Yeah,
accident, just like
you wanna share
the
some?
accidents you said in Oxnard, not the crashes, but the accidents, does somebody get a ticket, or, I mean, does something?
Yeah, you know, we're not really focused on, they've had a rough enough day as it is, so we're not really focused on trying to give them a citation. And if there's damage to the airport, we do definitely pass along the damage to them or their insurance company
Insurance,
for
yeah.
repair. We seek damage reimbursement, but we're not a police authority, so we don't. That would be more of the FAA. If there was some violation that the pilot may have done in the performance of flight, that would not be for the Department of Airports. That'd be for the Federal Aviation Administration.
And again, a dumb question, but having worked for companies that have a lot of trucks, and a lot of trucks were using recaps, and they were throwing caps going through the Central Valley, eventually they got tickets for having tires that were not in. And I have no idea what happened and why the tires blow out, but if you find out that the tires are not up to snuff, I mean, somebody,
Yeah, again, that's
he should fix it, but he or she should fix it, but we don't look into that, or?
well, that is not in our purview. I mean, we're a glorified landlord.
The recaps for the trucks.
And everything that happens on the property is really, as far as enforced through federal aviation regulations.
In the recaps for the tires, because when I was in charge of refuse, you could not use recaps in the front tires. They had to be rear tires. If they did.
I'm not aware of
If they did.
aircraft using recaps at all,
Yeah.
period.
Thank
But it's,
God.
I mean, I understand the question where you're coming from. That is something that's done in the trucking industry and
Yeah.
cars, but I'm not aware of aircraft.
Actually,
Maybe they are, okay.
they
Well,
are.
maybe, you know,
The recap, especially if you're dealing with flight schools, a lot of them use recaps.
Okay.
oh, they do.
But they don't typically have any higher failure rate than and us guys that keep our airplanes in the hangars try to get high-end tires so that they'll last a long time.
Michelin.
I learned something tonight. I didn't know that there was recaps for airplanes. But either way, we don't have a policing authority for that.
Thank you very much.
So
Yes.
we're going into item 8, reports. Any monthly reports for activity reports, noise, consultant, tenants, project status of any kind? We've talked a lot about that. Any concerns there?
None
None?
from staff.
Okay, then we'll go 9, correspondence. We have some correspondence. Any concerns on the correspondence on item 9? No concerns there?
Hi.
Bill?
Just a real quick question, since you sent a letter out to the hangar owners, why couldn't that be in the correspondence?
Oh, I thought it was. I'm sorry. Is it not?
Let me see,
Oh, it was after the packets went out.
so that would be for the next round?
Yeah, so we'll put it in the next round. Yeah,
Next round.
absolutely. Yeah,
That's a
because
good point.
we want it out. We posted it on the website. We've got it to the whole world, so.
But that's a good point, yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. But yeah, it was because it was after the packets went out. Yeah, no worries.
Burton?
Page 9A, we're talking about the document type, and I'm only asking, coming from Oxnard.
Mhm.
It says the document type, initial study for Cloud 9 in Camarillo. There was an operation called Cloud 9 on A Street. That's the only time the city of Oxnard has gotten the riot patrol out. What is Cloud 9 in Camarillo?
Cloud 9 is the same development, plan development that's also titled or known as RKR. So it was the one Mr. Sullivan
okay.
was inquiring about. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, item 10, miscellaneous. Miscellaneous. Item 11, authority comments. Any members from the authority have any additional comments?
I'm impressed with the reports that you've.
Yeah, it's a great report.
They're great reports.
Thank you.
You know, and I want to share that too. I think, Kip, you know, that coming out and reporting back to the concerns from some of the speakers is great, and the activities that you do, and what is happening is great, you know, information for all of us.
Thank you.
Supervisor?
I would just like to also thank the staff, if you can relate to the staff. I know it's been very stressful with certain losses and so forth, having to deal with that. And I just want to send the condolences to them as well.
Thank you.
Because I know that it does really affect our staff, and it's sad, and I just thank them for their professionalism in dealing with the situations.
Excellent point.
That's very much appreciated and will be passed along.
Second the motion on that.
Thank you.
Okay, item 12, what do you think, Bert? We adjourn? Let's adjourn.
I'm missing